Hey, how's it going, you guys? So we're halfway through 2022 already, which is kind of crazy. We've already gotten quite a few movies released back into theaters. The streaming networks are putting out a ton of content right now. So I thought it'd be fun now that we actually have some new releases midway through the year to actually make a top 5 favorite movies of the year thus far video. Now, this isn't to say I've seen every single movie out there. I feel like I've seen my fair share and I can give you a pretty good list so far, but I haven't seen everything. So if your favorite movie of the year isn't on here so far, odds are I just haven't seen it, or maybe I just didn't enjoy it as much. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into my top 5 favorite movies of 2022 so far. Coming in at number 5 is a movie that I don't anticipate being in my top 10 of the year, but it's a perfectly enjoyable movie that I've recently seen, Hustle. Hustle isn't flashy, it's not trying to do too much, it has a pretty standard plot line for a sports movie, but I thought that it was perfectly enjoyable. It gives us that classic underdog story that we're always craving as an audience. And something that I really appreciated about this movie too is that it uses actual NBA teams in the film. This, I felt, gave it a good sense of authenticity and made me buy into the movie a little bit more. We also get a really good performance here from Adam Sandler, and I mean, whenever that dude is actually trying to act, I'm always there for it. Like I said, the movie's a bit predictable, its plot isn't going out there like some of the other films on this list, but it's a perfectly good, rewatchable film that's on Netflix right now if you want to watch it. If you want something more in-depth talking about the movie, I have my review on this channel as well. So then at number 4, I have The Northman, a movie that did not make any money, but was just one of the most visceral times in a movie theater I've had this year. Whenever this movie opens, it's one of the few times where I'm watching a, period movie where I felt like I was there. And that's something that director Robert Eggers is really good at doing with all of the movies that he's directed so far. Whenever he wants to make you feel like you're in a certain time period or in a certain setting with these characters, you feel that. And I will come right out and say, this movie is not for everyone. If you are not into really weird, mythical Nordic stuff, definitely not for you. But I gotta say, this movie hit a really great balance between its more fantastical and historical elements. One scene you really do feel like you are in the middle of this Nordic fairy tale whenever it shows you like a Valkyrie, like a family tree put onto a movie screen. And then in another scene, it feels like you're watching actual people in the time period going through horrible things that make me very grateful that we live in the time period we live in now. And also, I just gotta say, Alexander Skarsgård is incredible in this film. That dude is absolutely jacked, and he did an incredible job of acting too. This is for sure the best that I've ever seen him. And also, I just gotta say, I will see anything that Anya Taylor-Joy is in. She's one of the best rising stars in Hollywood right now, and she absolutely kills it in this movie as well. So yeah, that's The Northman at number 4. And then at number 3 is a movie that was actually my most anticipated movie coming into this year, The Batman. And I gotta say, I had some really high hopes for this film coming into the year. All of its trailers looked amazing. I'm a huge fan of the director Matt Reeves and what he was able to accomplish with the last 2 Planet of the Apes films, so my expectations were sky high, and for the most part, it met all of my expectations. I got that Batman detective movie that I had been wanting for years. It gave you visuals that felt like it was straight out of a comic book, and it really set up Gotham to be a city that takes on a life of its own. And then I just gotta say, whoever casted this movie deserves an award for something, because they completely hit it out of the park. The choice to make Colin Farrell the Penguin is inspired, and I don't know who thought of it. I absolutely cannot wait for his HBO Max series. And then, I would have never have thought Zoe Kravitz would be an incredible Catwoman, but the chemistry between her and Robert Pattinson is some of the best that I have seen in years in any movie. Absolutely phenomenal casting with her. And then also, Paul Dano is so creepy as the Riddler. If you've seen this movie, you know this feels like a person that could actually exist. And that makes it even more scarier. You don't have to see his face through most of the movie to actually be afraid of this guy. From the very first scene of the film, you know what he's capable of, and Paul Dano just hits it out of the park. And then also, I've heard people have mixed reactions to Robert Pattinson in this movie. I thought that he did really well with what he was given right now. I think the whole point of this movie is that Bruce Wayne sort of feels like his entire life is the Batman, so that's probably why we didn't get many scenes of Pattinson without the cowl on. I would hope so in the sequel they give him more room to act whenever he's not behind the Batman costume. But nonetheless, I thought Robert Pattinson was a great choice here to play Batman. I can't wait to see what he does in the sequel. I will say, I think that this movie would be higher up on my list if it was just a bit shorter and if one specific scene from the end was not there, because I felt that it was pretty unnecessary. And if you've seen the film, I feel like you should know what I'm talking about, but I obviously don't want to spoil it. Alright, now we're heading into the top 2 films of the year, and let me tell you, this was tough. Because my top 2 movies of the year are totally different from one another. One is a very crowd-pleasing film for all sorts of audiences, and then the other one is very weird, very niche, and yeah, I guess I'll just come out and say it. Number 2 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. And for the longest time, this was my number 1 film of the year. And who knows, maybe by the time I make my top 10 movies of 2022 list, it'll be back in that spot. But right now, I'm feeling number 2. This is by far the most creative film I've seen all year. It is inspiringly original what the filmmakers were able to accomplish here, but it should come to no surprise for all of us that the directors of Swiss Army Man made this film. And if you don't know what Swiss Army Man is about, go look up the plot because it's pretty wild. Compared to that movie, this movie is like tame whenever it comes to the weirdness. But if you would have told me this time last year that my favorite multiverse movie of the year would not be related to Marvel, I would have been very confused because I had never heard of this film before I went to go see it. I had no idea what it was about. I hadn't seen any trailers, and that's what I would recommend all of you do if you have never seen this movie. Michelle Yeoh has had a very long career in film, so it should come to no surprise for those of you familiar with her work that she is excellent in this movie, but I have to say this is the best that I've ever seen her. Michelle Yeoh was the absolute perfect choice for this character, and I can't see anybody else doing it as well as she did. I mean, she has the martial arts background necessary for a film like this, and then she also has the acting chops, so honestly, kudos to her. It is a long time coming that she gets the spotlight entirely on her, and I'm so glad it's in a movie as good as this. And I gotta say, it's been awesome seeing this movie stay in the top 10 within the box office over the last 2.5 months. This small indie movie that was made for no money has grossed more than any other movie in the studio's history. And it is well deserved. This is a expertly helmed movie. It is an expertly written movie, and overall it's a great film. It's incredibly creative. There's nothing else like it out there. Similar to the Northman, I would say that this probably isn't as mainstream as some other movies on this list, but if you like weird, if you like wacky, this is for sure the movie for you, and it is my number 2 favorite movie of 2022 so far. But alright, if you've watched any of my videos over the last couple of weeks, number 1 isn't going to surprise you. My number 1 favorite movie of 2022 so far is Top Gun Maverick. And so I struggled between this one and Everything Everywhere All at Once for my number 1 spot, but ultimately what affected my ranking here is this is the only film that I've watched this year where I walked out feeling inspired. You know, whenever people go to see movies, you look for different things. You know, it just kind of depends on the audience goer. But for films, if they make me walk out feeling inspired to go do anything, feeling like I could go conquer the world, I generally gravitate to those movies more. And this is just a prime example of what happens whenever you get good filmmakers doing their best on a film no matter what. Going for quality versus, a cash grab. Because a cash grab could have very well happened in the last 36 years. Tom Cruise has had plenty of chances to make a Top Gun sequel since 1986. But what's important here is he waited until the script was right and the right people and the right pieces were in place. It all came together for a fun, crowd-pleasing time at the theater. And more than anything, this movie has been fun to talk about with people. This is the first film in years that it feels like everywhere I go, people are talking about it whenever movies get brought up. I feel like I could walk up to anyone of any age group from any walk of life and they've seen this film. And to be able to have those conversations about movies is what it's all about at the end of the day. Sharing opinions, sharing your love for the art of film, sharing your love for a movie. And this is what that film has brought out so far this year. So hats off to Tom Cruise and all the other filmmakers that had a hand in this, because it is no easy feat making a film that tries to hit the beats that this film does, and they did it successfully. And I don't know if I'm on a Top Gun Maverick high or something, but I am in love with this movie right now. We'll see where it places at the end of the year. If it gets bumped down a little bit, maybe I end up liking Everything Everywhere All at Once a little bit more whenever I've had some more time to sit with it. But for now, Top Gun Maverick is my number one favorite movie of 2022 so far. But anyway, you guys, those are my top 5 favorite movies of the year so far. To run it down really quick, at number 5, I have Hustle. At number 4, I have The Northman. 3 is The Batman. 2 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. And number 1 is Top Gun Maverick. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.